Greetings, I'm Christina Engelbart, and I'd like to welcome all of you here. It's really wonderful to have you help us celebrate this very special anniversary date. Before we launch into the future, let's key in on this guy and see what he would have to say. And what I believe that would be great effort, guys, noble effort, but there's one small problem. So this man was not a pessimist, quite to the contrary, but he was a realist, and this is what kept him up at night. What does that look like? So basically, he thought it's a race. The digital technology revolution is just soaring, the exploding rate and scale of change. On the other hand, we have organizations trying to systematically improve for the future and become more highly evolved. But the explosion of digital technology is really putting a tremendous pressure on the organization's ability to do that. Because it's taken a life of its own, it's on a different trajectory. And so there's so many technologies these days that have not evolved in symbiotic relationship with the organizations. There's wonderful emerging technology coming out, on the other hand, who's pioneering those really important capabilities that Doug Engelbart started years ago. So to understand this gap is a widening gap, and the formation of digital technology is increasing the speed of everything. So it's increasing the speed of all the other global issues, including climate change and all of that. And climate change itself is a threat multiplier. It exacerbates other threats on the planet. The explosion of digital technology unchecked is itself also a threat multiplier, and that gap is a cause for concern. In fact, my father believed that it was extremely serious, and that's why he dedicated his entire career to that. The gap itself it represents a risk of untold caliber, and including the potential for collapse, for extinction. On the other hand, it represents an opportunity, a golden opportunity, for really rising to the occasion and getting that capability in our organizations to jump the curve and get ahead of it. So what he saw was the single greatest existential challenge of our time. Not climate change, not cyber war, not population explosion. The single greatest challenge and opportunity is our ability to raise the curve on our collective ability to collectively solve important problems. So that being the single greatest existential challenge of our time. And that's why he dedicated his life to solving that problem, starting from the beginning, and all the technology he prototyped, it was all in the service of prototyping the organization of the future that would be fast and flexible and highly evolved so that it could tackle important problems. And I think they did a pretty good job. But a lot remains to be done. And so this takes us back to the slide that you saw earlier in that wonderful video. This is the cornerstone of a larger strategy that he came up with from the very beginning and refined all throughout his career. So he put it in terms of a bootstrap paradigm map, because the idea is that we need to be bootstrapping our capabilities. We need to be bootstrapping our organizations. We need to be bootstrapping our collective IQ. So what are the limiting factors? And what he came up with was the single greatest limiting factor is the paradigms that people bring to looking at the world, how they fit in the world, and where our world needs to go. What are the opportunities for change? So he created a paradigm map, and so all of these tiles on there are what he thought where we needed to shift our paradigms in order to prepare for the future, jump the tracks, and get on the right trajectory. So it goes around there and all that. So now one of my jobs has been to try to distill all of that into an actionable strategy that organizations can apply within their own teams and initiatives and companies and institutions. 5 accelerators. So I'm not going to go into them in detail tonight. That would be for another time. But it covers all the key things that he introduced in that video, which are essential to galvanizing that capability and getting them into the hands of the groups and organizations, the networked initiatives that are trying to tackle the toughest challenges. So this brings us to what he thought was the greatest opportunity for our time, the greatest opportunity to leverage our collective smarts to launch a serious effort improving collective IQ. He started that in the 1960s, but it kind of trailed off, and what happened? So this is really a serious problem, and we need a serious effort to do that. Focusing also how the collective IQ can be leveraged to improve how we improve. That ABC and the way we have to accelerate how we improve, not just improve the capability. So who's the customer for this? Who's the end customer? So think of it as the networked improvement initiatives. These are the initiatives like the ones that you're going to hear tonight. It's all the initiatives and organizations that are trying to tackle those toughest problems. And one of probably the greatest opportunity for single point of leverage in all of this is to start networking the people, the organizations, the initiatives that are working on the toughest problems and bring them together to help collectively guide us into this. So we haven't scratched the surface, and my dad would be the first one to tell you, noble effort. But here's another really important point where he was talking about the importance of the co-evolution, to a reminder that technology should not aim to replace humans, rather amplify human capabilities, whether it's the individual, whether it's the team, the initiative, the organization, the institution, or society at large. When you think of Doug Engelbart, please, the least important question you can ask about Engelbart is, what did he build? The most important question being, what world was he trying to create?